But it's just interesting as to who is predicting which way the market will go.
Yeah, I guess as I was reading through some of the notes, I was thinking about our boy Simon Presley at Propertyology. I know there's some info in there, but yeah, he often says that kind of, looking at all this data is those big centres of Melbourne, Sydney. Our kind of market here in Hobart it's slightly different. And then in some of his notes, he's predicted, Hobart, Burnie, Devonport, pretty good spots to still continue to look. I might have misquoted him then, but he'll be fine with it.
I'm sure he'll be fine.
I think he was Burnie in Devonport, but we're checking Hobart.
That's pretty close, yeah.
Going once, going twice, sold. You're listening to the Property Pod.
All right, guys, welcome back to the Property Pod, your weekly engagement into real estate here in the Hobart Marketplace. I'm your host, Aaron Horn. It's 2023, first crack off the rank, buggered it up right at the end on the landing.
Crank.
I love that you say weekly in that opening, yet here we are in February.
No.
It's been holidays.
Yeah, it's holidays. People have been away. It is a government-mandated breather between podcasts. You can't podcast every week of the year. It becomes way too oversaturated in the market. Everyone's got to have a breather.
Yeah. Fair enough then.
No, we're back. We're in action. It's fun. People have missed us. We're only saying off mic. I've had about 5 people say, "Where's the show? Is it over? Please be over." It's not over. No, welcome back. It's 2023. It's a new year. We're here. We're in the same studio, all at the same spots. How are we doing, guys? How are you, John?
Mate, I feel good. I feel really good. Actually, it is nice to be back because I missed you boys. Pretty much for the whole of January, you weren't really here.
Nope.
No, well, Pat, you can probably fill us all in on your adventures. Just kind of let the listeners know where you were.
Yeah, I decided to go caravanning, become one of those grey nomads, but not so grey.
It's so funny. It like literally,
it is a grey.
I'm getting greys if I let it grow as well.
It's one of those things where, if I'd said to you 3 or 4 years ago, "Hey, do you reckon you'd ever do a caravan trip with your kids?"
Bloody way.
Exactly. But,
and 6 weeks away, 2 weeks in, I thought, why am I doing this?
So where did you go?
Headed up to Airlie Beach, so middle of Queensland, I guess you'd describe it.
Yep. And your folks have a place on the coast.
Yeah.
Yep. So you went there for
Beach.
Chrissy?
Yeah, so Christmas at Broadbeach. Hit the beach, hit the sand, sun, all that stuff. It was good fun.
Normally we'd be jealous of that down here in Hobart for Christmas, but we had absolute cracking weather on Christmas here.
Yeah, but have you had enough sun that you still have a three-pronged
tan?
I've got it. My foot has still got that fong tan happening
nicely.
nicely.
With no shoes on for the next month.
I thought it would have gone by now, but it hasn't. So it's nice.
So what did you learn on your adventures up north? What kind of, give us a brief elevator pitch of what you saw, what you liked, what you didn't like.
Look, I learned Queensland's incredibly hot, and I don't know why people want to live there. But if you don't and you want to move to Tasmania, John and I would love to help you out.
We got you back.
If that heat is getting to you, we're here to help.
Stuck the landing.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, but no, it's just really it's weird. No daylight savings as well in Queensland. That's a bit I can't get my head around.
Well, the cows don't like it.
Oh.
That's why they cancelled it. It was literally like they tried it 1 year. They kind of said like, "Oh, we'll see how we go." It's too hard to get up and milk them if the clock's an hour back the other way.
Yeah, the
cows in any other state in Australia don't have that issue.
Yeah, they're just used to it. They've got eye watches or something like that. Or
I'm going to go with that.
Look, you can fact check me on it, but I'm pretty sure there's something to do with the cows.
Look, I've never had a reason for it, but now that is my reason.
The cows don't like it.
I don't care if it's true or not.
I'm going to fact check this. I'll be back next week with the cows.
Yep.
I'll chuck it in ChatGPT. It'll help me out.
Oh, that'll work.
No, but apart from that, Abby and I did bike riding, mucked around, went to a lot of housing estates being constructed up the coast, up the highways. But on the mainland, they do it differently. Like here in Tassie, you see a subdivision go up, it's 30 houses. Over there, it's like 500 houses, a school, a Woolworths. They
do a whole city.
They build a city in one hit. So you drive up the highway and you get an hour out of Melbourne, and then all of a sudden, Parkland's opening soon, and you see the billboard, and it's not just a subdivision, it's a whole city they're building.
Yeah.
I guess it's kind of like, remember that time ages ago back on the pod we spoke about those mega cities they built in China, trying to get everybody to move out of the cities, and now they're just these abandoned ghost towns because they're just like, everybody move out of where you've grown up and lived all your life. Nah, not interested.
just ghost cities. It's crazy.
Yeah, well, I guess these cities are working relatively well because people can afford to buy, so they're forced to live in those areas. But no, it's interesting just seeing how different states do it.
I guess it must be well, way better thought out though, because rather than just a whole just glut of houses, it's got all your services are already integrated into that hub. So boom, you got a new community.
Yeah, town planning is actually, we were in Launceston just last weekend for Festivali, went up there with the family, and where we stayed was kind of in old Launceston, like just near the hospital.
And
trying to navigate some of those little side streets which are one way and tiny little things where in this maze, and you just think like, oh yeah, like town planning has come a long way now, where it's like
no, you're right. And when we're in Canberra, that's exactly how you really notice it there, because Canberra's was actually an architectural competition when they built that city.
Really?
So there's actually a whole museum you can go in Canberra about how they designed the city of Canberra and why it flows so well. And it does. You just drive, after driving through Queensland and Sydney, and you get to Canberra and you're like, this place is just
holy moly,
nice.
I can get anywhere.
Yeah, I'd live here. And Abby's like, no, he wouldn't.
Unless you're in
so
the army,
easy to
work for
drive here.
Well, speaking of driving, I know like this is a little grumble, but while we were away, there was that the time that the whole city came to a standstill with that truck fell over on the. It actually felt like a heist was happening. I thought there was like a truck that fell over on the Tasman Bridge, a crash on the Bowen Bridge, and I think something happened on the Southern Outlet. It was like this calculated Ocean's 11 style thing. We're going to take out all the major arterial roads. Then we're going to hit Fort Knox. It was like Die Hard 3.
So I love that. See, we don't even know. Maybe in the basement underneath, the wharf is a giant Federal Reserve of gold for Australia.
It well could be. It could be it. We could be onto something here. I think we should start a true crime podcast. The day Hobart stood still.
I do distinctly remember that day. There was like that music just cranking everywhere. I couldn't put my finger as to why.
I just thought it was a mofo thing.
Maybe they're in on it.
Yeah.
Well, look, I wouldn't put it past Walshy.
The submarine was going under the Derwent into the secret bunker.
He did just advertise that he won $80 million or something. Maybe that's a cover story.
Guys, well, let's pitch. No more property talk. Maybe there was gold in the Lake Illawarra under the bridge. I've worked this all out.
Yeah. Conspiracy podcast every Thursday.
Oh, can we ever get this on back on track?
We can. We just got to find out what Johnny Mac did on his little period away. We just got to catch up with you. How was your time over Christmas?
Well, ours was just spent with family, actually, and then just doing little small bits, renovations at the home and at our investment property.
Yep.
So it wasn't, because both of my brothers were down, which is always great, so we try and spend as much time with them as possible, and Luke announced that he got engaged.
Yeah, I heard,
So we're next week, I suppose if we're released today, he's going to his wedding.
Now, I heard that he had a big reveal planned and your dad squished that on the head by just stuffing it up.
I think Luke wanted to do more than... his fiancée Amy.
Was it a song?
That was originally going to do a song.
And Chris said something along the lines, well, I hope it's not about getting engaged or something like that.
He could have done in the moment.
Surprise, done.
Well, we'll have to fact check that as well. But
that's what the rumour in the office was when I came back, and I was like...
Mind you, it's that thing where if you're to consider his personality, that's exactly something he would accidentally do.
Just stick his foot in and be like, damn it.
But it was a genuine surprise. It was really nice.
Yeah, well, my aunt was watching The Project or something the other night. She said he had a ring on. And I was just like, holy moly. Like,
what is she zooming in?
Yeah, that's what I said. But yeah, I actually watched him on Taskmaster last week. Hilarious.
That is a good show.
So good.
Random as.
Yeah. When he won when he died, have you watched it?
No, not this week.
He had to make a video of his lifetime, and it was 1 minute. He had 45 minutes to make it. Then he's like, and Luke died winning the sex grand final. And I lost it. It was so good.
I think he said in his social post where his older brother Tom Gleeson, and I could just imagine those guys must just give each other hell.
Yeah, the redheadedness of them.
Yeah. It's the band is bloody good. I really enjoyed it.
No, very entertaining. So Channel 10, check out Luke on Taskmaster.
Yeah. But for me, it was pretty cruisy, which is fine. I didn't really need any more, to be honest.
Nice.
I worry about some bigger holidays down the road.
Very nice, very nice. Well, we've had our prerequisite banter at the start of the show. It was put into our show notes by Nino. Thank you by that.
Yeah,
appreciate that. Jumping into the market, it's interesting. Look, I wanted to put a positive spin on some things out there. Day of recording yesterday, the Mercury came out with a huge headline on the front cover. 80K drop in housing prices could be pretty dire out there for people. It
was a big heading too. It took up like half the front page of the newspaper.
That's how you sell papers, baby.
But then I had to remind myself that nobody reads the newspaper, so it's not good. Like, it was a pretty negative page.
It was, and it's interesting. Lots of the mass media out there is about the trickiness of the market out there. You guys are working in it every day. You guys are, even while you're off, I know you're getting phone calls and you're always working. Even if you're up the east coast of Australia, you're still plugged into the system.
Unfortunately, yes, always still playing around.
Yeah.
What are the conversations that you guys are finding out there at the moment? Like, we could run through a bunch of stats here about how the market was booming. It's kind of gone back to pre-COVID levels. We were talking corrections in the past. It does seem to have shifted, and when there's big headlines like that, it does seem to lead people to kind of hit the panic button.
Yeah, yeah.
What's happening out there? Hit us with what you're talking to your vendors about, what you're talking to buyers about. What's the story that you guys are finding as your truth?
Well, I'd say the fear of missing out's gone out of the market. So, on a general sense, we hark back 2 years ago, the buyers were in that emotional sense, thinking, "God, I have to buy now, otherwise I'm going to miss the boat." So it's that real driver of prices emotionally, where they feel they just have to buy something.
And it's understandable, because I think between 2017 and now, it was like 93% prices grew. So for people that were trying to buy over the last couple of years, every month they waited, they had to pay more money to buy a house.
10%. It was madness.
So that's why there was that real sense to try get things done ASAP, because they were worried that, if it takes me 6 months to buy a house, I'm probably going to spend another $50,000 doing it.
Yeah, or I can't even afford it anymore. Yeah.
So are we in the inverse of that now, where every month I'm not buying?
That's right.
I'm going to be paying less. Is that the vibe that's out there on the street?
That'd be the sentiment. How, from my experience, the way they're looking at it is like there's no more rush now. They can be a little bit more patient. What else have you got? I'll just wait. I'll see what happens. So whereas before it's like I have to get in, it's like I'll see what happens. Oh, good, no rush. So for us, even one of our properties, we're reconnecting with a buyer 3 to 4 weeks later that's going to purchase it, and they needed that little bit of push. So it's because that house was still available. We'd had a price adjustment, and now they're like, okay, that's fair value. Now I'm going to go for it. And so in terms of that activity, we're seeing it more as a sort of a balanced market / buyer's market, where now sellers, if would say, look, if you want to have a crack at a price in this current market, I could probably guarantee that you're not going to get it. And that's where they've seen their capital growth, and then they're trying for even more.
Yep.
But the buyers just aren't in that same headspace anymore. So for the sellers that are selling, I'm suggesting, make sure you're committed to the sale, because it may not have that same price expectation that you could have got.
And it also depends on how long that particular person's owned the property.
Absolutely.
If you've only owned the property for, say, 24 months, then you've probably got to bunker down and hold on to it for a bit longer if you can afford to, because you are probably going to lose some money on it. Mm-hmm. But if you've owned it, for 5 or 10 years, like, you've had exceptional growth. So even if the prices do come back as what the Mercury argued, 20% or whatever they were
less
talking
than
about.
Yep.
Actually, I think it worked out at 10%.
10% was yeah.
So if we've had 93% price growth in the last 5 years,
Yeah.
and they're predicting it's going to come back this year by 10%, you are still making a lot of money.
You've done okay.
Yeah. So you just need to remind yourself of that. And the third thing to remember is, like we always say, is if you're buying and selling in the same market, it doesn't matter what you pay for the property and what you get for your property, because it should balance out.
Yeah.
You come unstuck where you sell and then you rent for a while, or you don't get back into the market straight away, and the market shifts and goes the opposite way, then you become, I guess, left short.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and it is interesting where from our interaction with buyers, they've reshifted into being much more comfortable about just indicating interest below the asking price, which is reasonable, because I suppose before they were expecting it to go up and they're expecting it to go down at this point. So as opposed to them instantly offering, in Tasmania we shifted very much to offers over, and we might find that we discussed at our sales meeting the other day, where we might start shifting the way in which the properties are advertised, moving back to fixed prices or offers around or different adjustments just to meet where the buyers are.
Yeah, it's funny.
It to go.
Ever since I've been working on the media side of things, it's been at this offers over language is being used on all the pricing since 2018. I'd say.
Easy.
It's been like that, and then hearing kind of some of the conversations around the office be like, I'm thinking about doing a buyer's range of like the low end of the spectrum, the high end of the spectrum, find the right price in the middle of here. And I was just like, man, like yeah, there is a change. I've never seen it like this before. It's really interesting to see how the conversations are kind of navigating this thing. Or a few people have been setting like, here's the set price.
Fixed price.
If you pay this, you get.
What would the undertake? What's on the paper?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is going to be an interesting marketplace. Like, the big four banks have all predicted pretty big losses this year,
Yep.
ranging from anywhere from 8% right through to 16% price drops, which once again, stress, we are 93% up. So still you're making money if you are selling in this market. But then you move across to some of the economists and they're predicting a different story. Like Nino's got here in his notes that SQM Research is actually predicting 3 to 7% growth in most capital cities, providing interest rates don't go too sky high.
Yeah.
And was there a 0.25% rise yesterday or 0.5% rise? Was that?
Well, it's one of them. I've stopped listening.
I know, it's too scary.
There's a new one going
I'll
up.
get the letter from my bank soon.
Every month I'm just like, oh, well, that's more money. But it's just interesting as to who is predicting which way the market will go.
Yeah, I guess as I was reading through some of the notes, I was thinking about our boy Simon Presley at Propertyology. I know there's some info in there, but yeah, he often says that kind of, looking at all this data is those big centres of Melbourne, Sydney. Our kind of market here in Hobart it's slightly different. And then in some of his notes, he's predicted, Hobart, Burnie, Devonport, pretty good spots to still continue to look. I might have misquoted him then, but he'll be fine with it.
I'm sure he'll find.
I think he was burning in Devonport, but we're chucking Hobart.
That's pretty close, yeah. I'm just doing it for SEO purposes.
Because we don't have offices in Burnie and Devonport. No, but I think for me, if I was thinking about buying in the marketplace, I think there is a window of opportunity there today. Like, I think there is a sense of people being a bit worried out there in the market at the moment. That worry will disappear at some point this year.
Yep.
So if you're brave enough to bite the bullet now and say, yes, I think you can secure a pretty good deal. But I do think there will come a point at 2023 where everyone realises that this is the new normal. I may as well get on with my life. May as well go back and buy a property. And that's when you're going to get unstuck and not get those really good, I guess, opportunities to negotiate and get a good price.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess I would think it's still very much a numbers game. So for a couple of times when I'm trying to help friends buy property at the moment, it's he's in a difficult situation where there's high levels of competition at very different price points. Him and his family are looking for their second home. They've been out of the market for a while, but they're going to come under that home share scheme, and anything up to 500, they're just really having a hard time because it's still that. At 470 to 500 in the northern suburbs for a 3-bedroom house, like that shows really exceptional value.
Yep.
And they're getting beaten time and time again. But then once we move into this sort of 550, 600, I'll just speak for Glenorchy specifically.
Yeah, that's perfect.
That's when there's a real slow in because the median's starting to shift back from 600 from 2022 back into 2021 of looking at about 550. And so unless the properties are immaculate, we're finding a little bit harder to be able to move that quickly if there's work that quote unquote needs to be done. So we've still got a lot of competition for finished homes, but anything that requires that fair bit of maintenance, people are being a little bit more cautious about because of the rising cost of what they would cost.
Lucky your neighbour's gone out and fixed his home up.
I was about to say the exact same thing, Pat.
Did you be up to date with
Are you up to date with my neighbour?
No, what happened?
We were talking about him last year. My neighbour across the road, who's been selling. His kitchen needed a bit of work. He hadn't painted the side of the house, despite being a painter. But
Despite being a painter.
But yeah, good news is he's fixed up the backyard. He's gone and painted the whole house through. Like it was some quite elaborate colours, we'll say.
Yeah.
Eccentric could be another E word that we could use. Creative colours. Has now kind of minimised the palette to be a bit more nice.
Sounds like he was listening to episode 12 with the property pod, I reckon.
Probably, yeah. He's been... No, well, so here's the tricky bit. He doesn't read the newspaper. He doesn't have Facebook. He's just a man of the world.
Yep.
So he's not reading that the market is shifting. So his expectations, every time he's added to his price, let's say he was appraised at 490, he's like, no, I want 520. Okay, we'll try and achieve that. Well, his agent, who's not us, will try and achieve that. Every time he's added a 10 grand to the price. So now his expectation is at like 570. Like I won't sell for less than 570. And he's coming over He's coming over all the time. I'm trying to be a parent here, bud. And he's like asking me this question. I was like, I still don't know the answers to any of this. But my layman version of this is, you're too dear. You haven't had much interest at 520, so you're not going to get extra interest at 570 because you've done a few extra things. But talk to your agent. Hopefully your agent can help you out. Your neighbour can't.
I'd heard that before. It's like, maybe we're pricing it too cheap, and people think there's something wrong with it. It's like, mate, it's not. You're not fine art. Like it's a house. It doesn't work on the same philosophy. But
just in another update from my street and issues that we had where we were talking about the guy with the really long grass.
Yeah.
That could I go and offer to mow his lawn just on the off chance that would make my street look better and have better street appeal? Not the worst house on the street. He has done such a good job at whippersnippering it. He's been out in his tiny little short shorts. He's got the little stubby shorts with these tiny little white stick legs. Sarah even went by to him the other day walking the dog. She said, "It's looking really good, mate." And the smile on his face was...
He must be getting ready to sell, I reckon.
Yeah, it will be interesting, yeah. He has done an immaculate job. So my street is looking cracker. There's a house opposite me that's for sale for about $570 if you're interested.
Because your neighbours' lawns are amazing.
Yeah,
well, I mean, it could have been
freshly painted.
It could have been like me. Like my grass was the worst in the street for ages because I just didn't own a lawnmower or a whippersnipper for ages. Well, we weren't living there, but now it's always kept level. As a reminder, I do it the same routine.
How'd you kill it off?
Yeah, it's all. I just burnt it. Just set fire to lawns.
I've managed to turn my nice green rental grass into straw.
Fantastic.
It don't grow no more, John.
So, don't water it, it's fine.
It's crunchy straw now.
Yeah, wicked. It's less maintenance for you, mate.
Mowed it once and now she don't need mowing anymore. Oh, dear.
Well, look, guys, it's great to be back in the studio. It's going to be an interesting year. Just market-wise, things are changing. It's going to be interesting. We'll try and keep a positive spin on it like we do here in the studio. But, it'd be interesting to kind of pick the brains of other people out there of how they're finding themselves.
Well, I was only thinking about it this morning when it'd be interesting to listen for my own sake. The conversations we had when the markets were very, very different, and what was the advice, etc., that we're saying at the time.
I'd love just to listen to the smack that we talk.
Yeah, good point. Good point.
But you could probably skip 90% of it. We just need like a podcast paraphraser that's takes all the rubbish out, and then you get a 2-minute bite of really good information.
Yeah. No, I'm with you, man. It's there's a big shift. I mean, the way that we're operating is changing. From a practitioner's perspective, the conversations definitely are different, and I'll be interested to see how they map out for the next 6 months.
100%. Well, welcome back. It's good to be back. We'll be back weekly. That's our promise from here on out.
100%.
We'll see how long that lasts. And that's the Property Pod for the first episode of 2023.
Thanks, guys.
See ya.
See you, gentlemen.
Bye. You have been listening to The Property Pod, recorded and edited by 414 Media House in conjunction with 414 Property Co.
This podcast is general information only, and the thoughts and views expressed is the opinion of our panel, and listeners should always seek then use their own investigation into any topic we discuss to ensure they fully understand their own situation.
It does not constitute and should not be relied on as purchasing, selling, financial or investment advice or recommendations, express or implied, and it should not be used as an invitation to take up any agent or investment services. No investment decision or activity should be undertaken on the basis of this information without first seeking qualified and professional advice.